Hello and welcome back to Page Chewing Comics and Manga Pick of the Week. This is episode number 46. This is a podcast where we talk about mostly new, primarily single issue comics. My name is Mike and I'm back here once again with Steve. We'll be sharing what we read this past week, including our Pick of the Week. If you're joining us for the first time, we are back in the swing of doing the weekly comics endeavor and finding what interests us. It's always an adventure. So, Steve, what have you been up to this week? How was your reading week?
Been a busy week. Pretty good reading week though. I think I maybe had one dud, but we talked a little bit about. I'm curious to hear from listeners if they want to share any experiences they've had with their pull list not being complete. I think it's something we've all experienced at some point, because you put something on your pull list, you kind of relax, like it'll be there. I don't have to worry. And you get your pull list and you go and you get your stack and it's not in your stack. Yeah, it's not on the shelves.
Yeah. I mean, that happened to me. And it's happened multiple times. And I know that I don't know if this has something to do with the technology, because my list is literally like a handwritten list. So maybe there's something, maybe a spreadsheet or something that we could do. The biggest challenge that I have is there's certain issues or certain series that I really want to have in my hands. I now want to possess them. I want to, I guess I'm becoming a collector or whatever, but I mean, I can go and find the electronic version, but they'll have to be ordered, and it'll take a while. So I feel a little bit bummed, but it's not the end of the world. That's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah, I think it is. It's disappointing, but I think every pull list I've ever had has been handwritten. Mm-hmm. Now that I think about it, so I'm not sure if maybe there's just things get lost or how that works. I think we should get a comic book shop owner on one of these days and ask them, how does this work? Why is it handwritten?
Yeah.
Why are we still doing this?
That would be really interesting. So no, I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's the end of the world. But I've had a decent week. Maybe not the best in the world, but very curious to hear about to have you kick us off here.
Yeah. My first book is Dick Tracy, number 2. And just saying that name makes me giggle a little bit because I'm 12 years old. This is by Mad Cave Studios. And after issue 1, I talked about on the podcast that I was impressed with the first issue. They ramped up the violence and they made it more adult, but not too adult to where it's over the top, and didn't quite fit as the Dick Tracy we all know. This second issue was still really good. It's the same classic characters, but has a darker tone and story and themes. One of the themes that was in the forefront of this issue is PTSD, especially for combat veterans, specifically from World War II, because of the time period that Dick Tracy takes place. I thought that was really good, really powerful, really great stuff to show us the background of the characters and to show us what he's struggling with and the things he's been through. And I think all that was done really well, really without a heavy hand. So I was impressed with the delivery of that, of kind of exploring that, those symptoms and the things that happen to people who survived, who have survived traumatic experiences like that. I thought that was all really done. And it gives me a different perspective on the character. Before, he just seems like a hero. And when you dig farther into his psyche, I don't think we get a whole lot of that in the classic Dick Tracy stuff. So I might be wrong, but it does make him more 3-dimensional, and it does give him does make him more of a person than like a hero, like a nameless hero. So I thought that was all done really well. And while it is more violent and it is, I guess you can say, more adult, it's like the HBO version of Dick Tracy. It still has the feel and you still have the very classic dialogue and the way that they speak to each other is still very much Dick Tracy. So, and the art I think fits the classic Dick Tracy feel. The big squared off chins and all that seems very in line with what you would expect from a Dick Tracy book. They're not finding a drastically different artist to reimagine Dick Tracy to, kind of reinvent the wheel. It is still in the area. It's still in the street that we would expect it to be, but they do explore a little bit and kind of tweak things, but not so much to where it's not Dick Tracy.
So this is not like a modernized version of the series.
No, it still takes place in the 40s. I think
I just looked up and it looked like it started in 1931.
Yeah. But, yeah. So it does. Yeah, it does take place in that time period, but it is the violence is more, but it's not over the top. It's a lot more, but
I might want to check that out. I wonder if there's going to be a reboot movie. Who knows? Possibly. So my first book is Remote Space #1. This is by Image Comics, and in a similar to, I think it was called William of Newbury. This is a one-person show primarily, and so it's Cliff Rathburn doing the writing and artwork. I think his artwork is pretty good, but the story is a futuristic Earth. I guess it takes place in the year 2450, and there's all kinds of craziness have taken place. It's war, starvation, global warming, and all that fun stuff. So basically, there's like, I gotta say, at least 8 pages of exposition of what's going on. So it's pretty dense. And I'm not going to quote all of that or summarize here, but
wow.
One thing that I will note is that humanity is now divided into 2. One is like a technocratic version of humanity, very sciencey, very AI and technology based, and the other is almost the other side of the spectrum, but is considered more of like a eugenic society. So really dystopian. A lot of that has some interest or appeal to me, and I will say the first thing that appealed to me was the artwork. It has neon colors. There's some character on the cover that has he's like a half burning cybernetic organism, and then the other half is like flayed skin. Anyway, that's kind of like monstrous looking. So I was like, I'll give it a try. Those are the kinds of things that do it for me sometimes. There's just a lot of things thrown at you. Once we get all of this exposition, we do learn about a few characters, and it's like all of a sudden we're cutting to a scene of like a kind of like a cage match scene, and it goes on for a while. Then it's very action oriented, and then it kind of brings us back to more of a plot and story taking place in, of all things, Antarctica. So I think you could you can imagine my head is spinning a little bit here, and I just really struggled with some of the narrative. I think that exposition doesn't all need to come at once for me. Maybe there's times when that works, but I would really appreciate it to be little drips. And I can imagine there is, we've talked about this before, there's maybe a lot of pressure to to have a big first issue, and but I'm just really struggling with this one.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a concern, right? For especially newer creators, because we've talked about it before about certain creative teams that we just know we have faith in, and if even the first few issues just don't quite get it, just don't quite hit that mark, we still give it a chance. If it's a creator that we're not too familiar with, we're not familiar with, or haven't kind of proved themselves to us, and we not as likely to keep going. So, like you said, it's probably a concern to get as much out, but how much do you give out? How much will you either bring a listener base or a reader base in, or push them out?
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with the artist, I or the creator, but I do think there is some very imaginative artwork going on here. I don't really like the look of some of the bestial uh, creatures. Personally, I don't know why, but they're like anyway. So, but yeah, I don't think I'll be continuing. But you never know.
Yeah, I could have a slow week, and maybe it should pick up. Yeah. So the next one for me is one that you talked about, I believe, last week. Fall in Love on the Path to Hell. This one was kind of a mixed bag for me. I really like especially the Western. For those who don't know, we follow two different characters: a Western villain, and we also follow a samurai in medieval China, I guess. And they both, spoiler alert, they both die, and they end up in hell. I'm assuming. So I did like the art. It reminded me a lot of Raphael Albuquerque, kind of the art style reminded me of that. I even had to look back and make sure that I didn't miss his name on the cover, but I did enjoy the art. The story, I really liked the Western. Yeah. I thought if that would have just continued, I would have been all in on that. I really like that. I even like the samurai sections. I thought that was really interesting too. But then it's very abrupt. They both die and they both end up in a completely different place. And yeah, just the focus change. I think giving us an issue or two of them before they die maybe would have been, but then again, either way, you're going to have that jarring change. So I guess, and maybe they have only a limited amount of issues to get through before they deliver their story. So maybe there's a reason for it, but this one will be a last second decision for me if I'll continue. I'm not quite sure where it's going. I don't really like the idea of putting them both together. It seems very off. It just doesn't seem, just the pacing just felt weird.
Yeah. I had a various, I think that the artwork really was like, wow, it's just, and I'm still thinking about it a little bit. So I might, like you, I might continue, but it's kind of like the remote space, which I just covered. This is one of 4 issues. So that, I don't know if it's similar where you're trying to do a lot in the first issue. But I think, which we're going to talk about in a moment, there is Little Black Book, and I remember there were only 4 issues, and the first issue I don't think was like doing too much.
No, that's why I'm surprised it was only 4. It didn't feel rushed into the final 2, but we'll get into that here in a minute. I'm sure it'll be fun. The next one for me was Into the Unbeing Part 1. I love the cover. It's a great cover. Very grab your attention by me. It just screams off the shelf. So the cover really grabbed my attention. The artwork and the interior was fine. It wasn't really the style I typically look for, but it wasn't bad. It's still good. The story takes place after a mass extinction event, and a group of scientists happen upon a landmass that just suddenly appears. So they are investigating, trying to figure out what it is. Is it a a piece of land? Is it an organic creature? Don't know yet, but we start exploring this sudden landmass. And I have to say, those of you who have read or seen even the movie Annihilation or the Southern Reach trilogy, there are some pretty, it felt inspired by that story just because of the scientists and kind of the way each one has a different role. It kind of reminded me of that, which isn't a bad thing. I think it's a fantastic series. So of course it's going to inspire people. This first issue was good enough. I was excited. I'm excited to see where it goes. And I think I'm on board with this one. Let's see what happens next.
Sorry, I had trouble with unmuting myself. I just checked it out online, and it looks pretty cool. I'm hoping to read the Annihilation. What's the series called again? Something X, Area X, or
the Southern Reach trilogy.
Southern Reach. Yeah.
But it is Area X. Okay. So
anyway, this looks really interesting. So for next up for me, I have Geiger #3, and I've been enjoying the series. This one did not disappoint. I read volume 1. I feel like I'm caught up. There's not a lot of plot going on here, so I think when obviously there's a plot, but there's not a lot of kind of deep narrative, and I think everything else kind of makes up for that. So the artwork is very consistently good and appealing to me, and the detail is very appropriate. And there's humor, but it's not all over the place. It's inserted here and there. And then there's good character development. So those are a couple takeaways I have for this series. Just to do a very quick summary of what's happening. Geiger is with his new pal, who's a nuclear knight, and we see them in a library setting, and Geiger is very interested in books and as an escape, which I think we can all relate to, or many of us can relate to, at least the two of us. And then it kind of cuts to this interaction with these very kind of disgusting characters who are called what are they called? Organ people. I guess you can just imagine what they do, but anyway, it's just really overall I'm enjoying it, and this could have been my pick of the week. I will say I have a really cool variant cover. I believe it's by Dean Hashbiel. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that, but I'm starting to go for some of these variant covers if they appeal to me, because I think it's kind of cool. These are really nice throwback. This one is a nice kind of visual, very different from the interior, but it works for me. Yeah.
Nice. So overall, would you say you're enjoying the series so far?
Yeah. Yes, I'm enjoying it, and I think even Geiger #2 might have been a pick of the week for me. Yeah, so I am enjoying it, and I will mention there is an interesting relationship, a very in a way sweet relationship with a two-headed dog, and the main character. There are many people with multiple limbs or heads or various appendages.
Watch out for that radiation, kids.
It can sneak up on you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like rip your skin off. So the next one is one that we both had on our list this week. The Little Black Book, #4, the final issue. So after the first 2 issues, I had high hopes for this one. I thought It was very grounded. It had a crime feel to it. I think it was right around then that I realized it was only 4 issues long, and it kind of fell apart in the last two. I wish they would have extended this to another issue, done 5, and I think it would have allowed them to flesh out the characters better and to make the end pay off, because it all felt very rushed. I just didn't give a shit about most of these characters, and the whole thing at the end, with the sacrifice at the end, just felt really dumb.
Hmm.
It just wasn't earned. It wasn't set up. It has so much potential after 2 issues. I just felt like it had so much going for it. Had so much that it. You mentioned earlier that it didn't feel rushed in the first couple issues, and I think that was a really good thing. But then suddenly it was an overdrive, and the past 2 issues just were pedal to the metal. We have to tell the story. We have to get it out, and I just didn't care, and it's so disappointing that it ended this way. Yeah, just the end. Just it's just so disappointing that it just was not developed, and it just wasn't as good as it could have been. I just feel like I don't know if it was a matter of just squeezing it into 4 issues or what it was, but it just bummer. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think the whole happy ending thing just seemed out of left field or just surprised me. And I think there were 1 or 2 scenes in here that kind of made me chuckle a little bit, or I appreciated. So I maybe liked it a little bit better, and I think it was better than issue number 3. But I will agree with you that it did have that kind of rushed feeling, and just, I mean, just as you said, it just seemed a little bit out of place. I don't know. You don't need to tie everything up nicely. I don't necessarily need it to be all tied up like that, but some people do like that. So, but yeah, 6 issues would have been better. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think it would have given them more time to provide some backstory, to give us more on the characters and kind of invest more in them. But I don't think we had enough time with them. Even the main 2 characters, we didn't have a whole lot of time with them.
No, they kind of fell off. I don't know, on the back burner a little bit. So I believe this is my pick of the week, which is the Deviant. This is issue number 6 by James Tinian IV, and I absolutely have to shout out the main artist, which is Joshua Hickson. It's really he really creeps up on you, because at the beginning you're like, okay, but I was just in awe of his artwork, and it's just a real standout for me. Great use of black and bold lines, and then their backgrounds, but maybe this is also coloring. He may do the coloring as well, but there's a grittiness. There's sometimes the background or the scenery has a kind of a faded or muted effect, and it just really works well with this story, which is essentially like it's kind of a whodunit, murder serial killer story, still taking place during Christmas time. In the part of the country where I grew up, in Milwaukee, mainly, which is really interesting. And then it also takes place in Chicago. But I'll just mention one character he's an FBI agent that has appeared, I think, in the previous issue. He's a very intriguing and eccentric character. So just, again, like, good character development here. And Michael, who's the main character, doesn't even show up in this one. So I like that shift of, moving the tension away and developing other components of the other characters. So it continues to be kind of a baffling, like, what's really going on here? Who is the killer? And I'm just really digging it.
Kind of disappointed I stopped reading that one. Now that I've been hearing your thoughts on the last, especially the last two.
I didn't realize you had picked that one up, but I think in the first few, it was kind of like it really emphasized how Michael is like this comic book writer or whatever, and then it kind of moved away from that. It really changed. So I wasn't sure at the beginning, but I'm now curious to see how this continues. I don't know how many issues there are going to be because this is still going to continue. We're at issue number 6, so with the James Tinian name, maybe that means he can, as long as they're being, maybe they're going to continue. I don't know.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest pet peeves with books in general, and this I'll blame Stephen King for this. Whenever someone inserts themselves like a comic book writer in their story, when they're a comic book writer in real life, when they're an author, when they insert an author in their story, just like, come on.
Come on. You didn't like Misery?
But I haven't read that one yet. No, I haven't read that one yet. Have not been brave enough yet. There's a few of his short stories that just really just make him a construction worker or something. Like, why does that have to be an author, But whatever. He's Stephen King and I'm me, so he knows what he's doing. So yeah, I'm kind of bummed I gave up on. Maybe I'll try and catch up with the Deviant. So my pick this week, I don't think is too much of a surprise. If you've been listening to the podcast or you know me, is the Infernals number 4. It's by Image Comics. Another great issue. It's basically secession in hell or the Antichrist. I think there are aspects of the story and there are moments in the story that I feel like it very much gives a wink and a nod to Succession and kind of where maybe the idea came from, but it's not close to that story. It's not taking aspects of the story. It's just I just feel like there's bits and pieces here and there that are kind of paying homage to that series. But anyway, in this issue, the Antichrist's kids have some decisions to make with their war between heaven and hell as it rages on. This one is funny, maybe laugh out loud a couple times, but it is still serious. It still takes itself seriously. The artwork is beautiful. It fits the story very well. And it just everything just works. There's great storytelling. The characters, I love the characters. The lines between good and evil aren't as clear cut as you may have expected going into a story like this. I mean, they're still evil, of course, but the forces of hell aren't exactly plain. They're not following the Geneva Convention either. So it's fun. It's just fun. And the like I said, the artwork has almost like a painted feel to it. And yeah, it's just everyone's double crossing each other. There's lots of people making moves and maneuvering and getting themselves into position to take over power and doing what they can to hold on to it. And yeah, it's just fun. It's just a fun, funny book with great artwork.
Awesome.
So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I'm so happy for you, Guy, because I start to feel like I'm almost like a cheerleader for some of these series. I don't know. I am also curious to check this one out. I don't think it's been showing up at all. The Infernals has been showing up at my local comic shop, but I'll probably get the trade paperback. So,
yeah, it's just fun. It's funny, but it's not goofy. Like it takes itself seriously, but has that dry, droll humor that I just love. Just really good stuff. So nice. Yeah, that was a quick one this week. Surprised. Yeah. So we didn't have too many this week. So hopefully we'll fill up our pull list and we'll get everything on our pull list this week. And Mike is apparently, according to his shop, the G.I. Joe and Transformers guy still.
Yes, I am. And pretty soon I'm just going to be like, okay, No, I keep getting. I just
Next
keep
time they
getting.
ask you, just be
It's
like,
just
"Yes, I
interesting
am."
that that's the first question I'm getting. Are you the Transformers and GI Joe guy? And because I think it was not. It's not coming in a bad way at all. It was just like, oh, are you interested in that? Maybe I can find something that you're interested in. Because the shop I go to is so small. It's just like when you go in, there's the new issues, and it's right by the sole worker in the store, and you're just chatting away. Hey, what did you think of this? It's actually a really nice atmosphere, and we get a lot of characters coming in there as well. like seriously, like some of the more interesting people I've come across in one area, one space.
Yeah, some really interesting characters for sure. Yeah,
is that the same for you? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's lots of characters that come in and out, and lots of them some of them take it very seriously and know a lot of details about history and how it all ties into the movies and all. I mean, they take it very seriously. I'm not that serious, but you definitely meet some interesting people in the comic book shop.
And I've learned there are some people that will buy all of the variant covers, but they may just pick one or two titles that they like, and then there's others that are maybe like us and just trying out whatever. But most of them seem to have a much longer history and have been doing this. And I think I don't know if it's a place where you can also kind of just let your freak flag fly,
So. Yeah, it's hard to. Yeah, you don't have to hold back your geekiness in a place like that for sure. They'll sniff you out pretty quick. But cool, yeah. So, so hope everyone had a great week. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can reach us with send us a text message link down below in the description. You can click that, send us a message, tell us hello, give us some feedback, tell us that you're out there listening. Love to hear it. I know there's a few of you out there. So say hello. And we are also reading, we started this Alan Moore Swamp Thing. We started that discussion. We did discuss volume 1. We will be discussing volume 2 at a undetermined point. Don't have that planned yet. But those are coming. And lots of stuff coming up after that. And lots of discussions planned. We're nearing issue 50. So if you'd like to be featured on the episode, shoot us a text and we'll read off. If you have any questions for us, shoot a question over our way and we will answer it on issue 50 of the series. We're almost there. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? That's wild. It's wild. But cool. So until next time, I hope everyone is having a great week and we will talk to everyone very soon.
Bye-bye.